Hi, hello, and welcome. If you're here, you're probably looking up gaming videos. There are all sorts of videos out there to watch, ranging from opinion pieces, video essays, gaming news, and everything in between. Today, though, I want to talk about one specific type of gaming content: game reviews. Game reviews come in a variety of forms. There are written pieces, audio reviews, videos, and all of these range from small YouTubers like myself to much bigger publications. But amidst all the diversity, there is usually a common factor between most game reviews: the grading scale or rating system. To be completely honest, I think these scales suck. Or rather, they need to be overhauled. Sit back, make sure your controllers are charged, and let's dive into game review rating scales and why they're just bad. There are different types of rating systems for games, but two of the more common ones I see are the 10-point and 5-point systems. These systems grade a game based on either 10 points, 1 being the worst and 10 being the best, or 5 points, again, 1 being the worst and 5 being the best. In fact, there are some rating scales that I really enjoy. For instance, to give a shout out, I really enjoy the rating system for a channel called Switch Up. They use both a point system and an aggregate percentage system to give a final score. Game reviews can be extremely useful to those who are about to spend money on a game. Ultimately, though, too many reviews, or at least too many where the majority of people go to look up game scores, just don't cut it. The first reason they simply just don't work is that the scales themselves are skewed. So let's take a second and think this through. In a 10-point system, 1 is the absolute worst rating, while 10 is the absolute best. So that would make a 5 rating as completely in the middle, right? A game that is neither good nor bad, but rather ends up being on par or mediocre. But this isn't how these scales work currently, is it? Let me ask you a question. If you see a game gets a review score out of 5 out of 10, what do you assume of that game? I'm willing to bet your first thought isn't, oh, okay, it's a very okay game, not being great nor terrible, it's just so-so. Your immediate reaction is more likely to be a response of, wow, that game must suck. If we look at that scoring system objectively, a game that sucks would be anything rated between, 1 to 2, while 3 to 4 is simply subpar. Not terrible, but still bad. When viewers look at the scores of these games and see anything less than a 7, then that's an immediate bad rating. How have we gotten to this point? I think there are a lot of factors that have contributed to this over the years, especially with the rise of social media. But some things I've noticed are sponsored reviews from the companies releasing the games, reviews perhaps being too lenient or too gracious to a game due to the fan base, toxic people who are incredibly vocal online, ripping and tearing through any reviews that don't match up with how they feel about the game, and reviewers considering things in games that shouldn't be part of the review itself. Let's take a second to focus on that last contributing factor. There are too many aspects of games that shouldn't be in the review process. This may be a hot take, but I don't think things like story or characters should be included in a game review. These are incredibly subjective and may differ from player to player. Another hot take: I don't think the visual art style should be included in the numbered or lettered review either. You may be ready to hop off this video or yell at me in the comments below now, but let me expand on this aspect. Though I don't think story or character should be included in the numbered or lettered part of a game review, I absolutely think there should be a section where the reviewer expresses their opinions on these things. This gives the reader or viewer the benefit of the hard facts of the game itself, while also being able to find reviewers they can relate to and taste. I think it's important for the person potentially purchasing the game to find reviewers that will help them make an educated decision. That doesn't always mean they agree with the reviewer's opinions, In fact, a valid tool a reader/viewer could use is to listen to a reviewer who they typically don't agree with. They'll know if they'll like the game if the reviewer's opinion is different than theirs. It's a bit ridiculous, but my point in separating the numbered part of the review and the opinion will potentially help a much wider group and give better information without losing the reviewer's distinct touch. Removing opinion from a game review is both an unreasonable ask and makes game reviews boring. This split would also address the fact that games walk an odd line between art and product. Having this separation would also address things like game length. I don't believe you can give a score to the length of a game because that is incredibly subjective. Look at games like Portal. I think that game was the exact length it needed to be, which could be viewed as short. The sequel is much longer, and I think that was the perfect length for that game. Notice the common factors in those statements. I truly enjoy shorter games, but when it comes to pricing, that could affect my choice in purchasing or waiting for a sale. Placing the length of a game in the opinion section of a review helps the viewer to make the choice themselves based on their own preference. The game reviews that I watch and read are from very distinct voices, and I don't always agree with them, but they're consistent in their tastes, and their unique perspective is why I show up. Now, we've talked about the opinion side, but what should be reviewed with a score? Aspects of a game, such as the game performance, the visual fidelity, and the audio quality, should absolutely be scored. These are functional things that are directly affecting any player who might purchase the game. I'm going to give another shout out here, this one to the folks over at Digital Foundry and their channel. They give people the hard facts about how games run, regardless of how they feel. The problem is that they're seen as like a sole source of this information. They really aren't, but they seem to be one of the, if not the, most mainstream channel for it. If you have various other reviewers stating that a game is running poorly, then hopefully people wouldn't use one channel to use as fuel for their own opinions. But that's another topic for maybe another day. Hard facts about a game are what need to be scored. Then include an opinion section on aspects like story, characters, art style, musical choices, and game length. What further creates this giant rift within game reviews is the woke versus anti-woke battle that seems to be happening in social media outlets. I'm not going to comment on one side or the other, since that is a topic that could be discussed in its own video. But I want to make a point about it. Whether a game is woke or anti-woke, neither of those opinions should be factored into the numbered or lettered score. That belongs in the opinion section of a review, where the reviewer can state their thoughts on a game and the possible political or social implications that may bring. Let me be clear. I'm not saying game developers or reviewers should just shut up about it. Developers should absolutely make the game they want to make. Reviewers should absolutely be able to state their opinion. But when that affects the rating of a game or blends into the quality of a game, that's a different story. What's interesting is that there is all this debate about woke culture creeping into games and game reviews, yet most regular players looking at reviews most likely don't even read the review itself. In fact, they'll more than likely just look at the score or aggregate score of a game and then move on. So throwing in opinions to ultimately affect the score of a game can be very misleading. I mean, I like looking at the content of game reviews, but I also recognize many others just want a number or score. I think both options should be available, and if the score is adjusted per opinion, that's not good for the player or the development team behind the game. Not only does the content of a game review need to be reworked, but who is doing the reviews needs to be a deliberate choice. I don't mean for a reviewer to be a shill for a game, unless you shill for the game Hades or Hades 2, then go ahead and shill away. But rather, a reviewer should understand and have an appreciation for the genre of the game they're reviewing. If a reviewer hates turn-based RPGs, don't have them review a turn-based RPG. It's that simple. Yet, it seems more often than not that reviewers for games are chosen poorly, especially at bigger publications or channels. Now, the score of a game shouldn't be affected by whether the reviewer likes the game genre in question, but it would completely render the opinion section useless if the reviewer doesn't have knowledge or enjoy the game genre in the reviewed game. Despite all my issues with the current state of game reviews, I don't think we should completely throw it out. I don't think completely getting rid of the grading system should be thrown out to be replaced with just words and opinions. But I also think the number or grade given should be more focused. If reviewers can separate the review score items from their opinion, I think reviews could be so much more in-depth. Reviews should be opinion on some things, while other aspects are more firm in their objectivity. Will game reviews change? I'd really like to hope so, but I don't see the landscape changing since it has only gotten worse over the last 5 to 10 years. But we'll see. What are your thoughts on modern game reviews? Do you have any game reviewers that you could suggest to me that I could go take a look and see? How much value do you place in game reviews when going to potentially make a purchase? Let me know in the comments section down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, consider giving me a follow. It is very much appreciated. And until next time, bye.